Here's another simple but great exercise that trains your programming brain. So I want you to create this function called sum. We give it a limit, and this function will return the sum of all the multiples of 3 and 5 from 0 up to this limit. Here's an example. What are the multiples of 3 and 5 between 0 and 10? Well, multiples of 3 are 3, 6, and 9. And multiples of 5 are 5 and 10. So I'm including this number that is passed as a limit. Now, if we add these numbers together, the result will be 33. And that's the job of this function. So save the changes, we get 33. Here we need to start with a for loop. So for let I equal to 0, as long as I is less than or equal to limit, we want to increment I. Now we need to check to see if I is a multiple of 3 or 5. So if I modulus 3 equals 0, or I modulus 5 equals 0, now we need to take I and add it to our sum. So here we need to declare a variable, sum, set it to 0. And if I is a multiple of 3 or 5, we need to add I to sum. And finally, we return sum. Now pay attention to how I have formatted this code. I have added these extra vertical line breaks to separate the initialization from the actual logic from the return value. If we didn't have these vertical breaks, this code would look a little bit squashed. It's a little bit hard to read. So as a best practice, it's always good to separate the last line, the return statement. Now in this case, we can have all these lines together because they're highly related. So we start with initializing sum to 0, and now we're still working on sum to add something to it. However, some developers prefer to separate the initialization, so you could add a line break here as well. That's more of a personal preference. But what I want you to take away is that lines that are highly related should be together, and they should be separate from other lines.